Hey everyone, it is July 12th and I wanted to do a vlog to update everybody on where I am. I have been to the doctor like a billion times this week, at least that's what it seems like, and this is pretty typical for IVF to go in and out and in and out and in and out of the doctor's office. So I went in on Tuesday and they checked my they did a blood test and an ultrasound, and I had about, I don't know, like 30 plus eggs obviously in there. And they were growing. They were kind of getting bigger, but they were still around 8 to 10 millimeters. And they want them at 18. So 8 to 10 is still really small. So I stayed on my regular dose that they had me on, which is I'm taking like 300 of Bravel and 150 of Menopur, and so they kept me on that. No Ganirelix yet because my LH wasn't even close, and they had me come back 4 days later, which was Friday. So I came back in on Friday, and they did tell me that they would have my biopsy results by the time I came back in on Friday. And I hadn't even worried about any of it. I was like, everything seems to be going great, so I'm just gonna hang in there and hope that everything goes well, and just sort of stay positive. And I've been so upbeat and happy all week, and just as excited as can be about the whole process, and a little worried that my eggs were growing kind of slow, but you know, hey, I'm an old lady. Everything takes a little bit longer, you know, when you're older, but to have as many eggs as I did at my age is kind of insane. So I just let it go. And then Friday morning I went in and she checked my follicles, and holy cow, they were doubling. Like some of them were up to like 16 and 14, and they were all over the place. I had one at 21, and they were just like, I had follicles of all different sizes, and my estrogen went from like 600 on Tuesday, it was like 654, all the way up to 2,200 on Friday, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's like so high. So that just shows my eggs were definitely growing, and they were responding, and everything was going well. And I was so excited. I said, oh yes. And she counted at least 18 follicles that were getting big. So that was a good number, and I was feeling really confident with that. And then she said, we're gonna have you come back probably tomorrow, which is set today, Saturday. And she was like, I will see how everything's going overnight, you know, and how your blood work comes back. And so that's when they found out my estrogen levels were going up, 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 up. So things were good. But as I was walking out, she's like, let's just check and see if your biopsy results came in. And sadly, they had come in and they were not good. Looks like they were they're finding trace amounts of cancer cells in my lining. Granted, trace amounts, but they look at it like, well, if there's any cancer cells, we don't want to put the eggs back in, which is ridiculous, because the reality is, it doesn't matter if you have trace, you know, if there's not, I mean, I don't have polyps or anything to prevent them from implanting. Yes, there's a case that it might cause me issues with implantation, but then again, it might not. And my feeling is, gosh, I have 20 some eggs. I mean, it's not like I'm ever gonna use them. I'm 41 years old. It's not like I've got 20 years left to have babies. I don't. I have maybe 5 or 6 years left. And so that's like, what? 3 pregnancies at most, you know, so come on, people. Do you really think I'm going to use all these eggs? And so I'm feeling like if I had a significant number of eggs that were fertilized and ready to roll at 5 day, what they do is they do a 5-day, they do a 3-day check to see how your eggs are doing, and then they do a 5-day check, which they're at the blastocyst phase at that point, and then they'll decide about freezing. You know, if they're all good, they'll freeze them. So, and then they see how many of them make the freezing process. But I'm like, are you kidding me? I said, if I only had 4 eggs, this wouldn't be an issue, but we're not looking at 4 eggs. In fact, it's at the point now where this morning I went in and the doctor's looking at me and he goes, we're not going to be able to give you the Overdrill shot because you have so many eggs. You stand a high risk of getting OHSS, which I knew that was going to be an issue with me because I already have a good amount of eggs when I'm not being stimulated. So, you know, stimulating me and doing this is just, it's just like brought out every egg I could possibly produce. You know, I'm like pumping out eggs like crazy. I'm like a, you know, an egg factory over here. Queen bee, just keep pumping them out. So I'm like, well, you know, what does that mean? And he goes, well, we're going to have to give you Lupron instead of Overdrill. So I'm going to go on a Lupron shot we'll see. I have to go back again tomorrow morning. This is like fun, over and over again in the morning. So, yeah, back again tomorrow morning, and we'll see how that goes and how that, information is just like, and then they called me today to tell me what my estrogen level. So I said it was 2,200 yesterday. It's up to 4,000, over 4,000 today. In one day, it almost doubled. That's insane. Like, that is so high. Like, I just, they told me my estrogen levels could get pretty high. And considering the cancer, it's a little nerve-wracking that my estrogen levels are going up. But it's, at the same point, I feel like, it's all good. I have a lot of eggs and things are going really well. So Kevin looked at me and he said, after I cried and cried and cried and cried after leaving the doctor's office, because I feel like one doctor she's like, forget it, you can't do it. There's no conversation about it. Whereas the other doctor, he didn't even want to do a biopsy. Like, he was just like, oh, I don't think I think you're a good candidate for IVF. Let's roll with it, And he didn't seem to, and I unfortunately have only gotten to see him one time since, being in there. And he's technically my doctor. So I want to have a conversation with him. And Kevin and I were talking about maybe once, if I don't see him tomorrow, then on Monday morning calling in and saying, look, I need the doctor to give me a call back and have a conversation with him. Because I called my oncologist yesterday in tears. I was like crying on the phone. I'm like, please give me a chance to implant these eggs and just see what happens. And it would be a different story if I had 2, but it's not looking like I'm going to end up with 2 eggs. It's looking like I'm going to end up with like 20 eggs. And it's crazy. It's like, come on now, work with me. What's the harm? There's no harm. I would have not gone back to my doctor until September and had my biopsy done in September. That's 2 months from now. What's 3 weeks to see if I get pregnant? 3 weeks, it's not that big a deal. And it's not like the medication's going to do any different in 3 weeks than it would do if I started like right after the retrieval. So my feeling is no, they just need to just trust me on this, because everything has been pointing to this cycle and doing what we can to try and make this cycle work. So I'm going to fight. That's just me. I have to give it a shot. I have to talk to that doctor and see if he's willing to work with me, because I think he's the reasonable one. He's the one that isn't by the book. And I know that it's been her experience. She's a great doctor or something like that. I think it's just been her experience that you got cancer cells, nothing's going to take. Well, I got pregnant on Megace while undergoing cancer treatment. So clearly, my body is not like everybody else's, and it doesn't do the same thing other people's bodies do. So you can't judge every book the same way. You have to kind of look at the overall picture. And my overall picture is showing that this might be the cycle to try. So I don't know. We'll see if I can convince them of that. But I'm not holding my breath. Otherwise, the option is I wait 3 months. They freeze everything, and I wait 3 months. After it's probably going to be more like 4 months, because it's 3 months, then they do a DNC, and then I got to wait another month after the DNC to get and then they got to build my lining back up, so God knows how long that's going to take. And she's like, oh, but your eggs are in, cryostasis now. And I'm like, well, oh, but I'm not. I'm still going to be a 40-something-year-old woman having a baby. Come on now. My body is still not aging. I'm still aging physically. So even though my eggs aren't aging, I'm aging. So I don't want to be a grandma having a baby. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's bad enough I'm in my 40s trying to have a kid. It's like driving me nuts. So this whole process, and they could be doing this over and over again and still not get me pregnant. Because if you wait, how many DNCs is it going to take before you mess up my entire uterine wall? I mean, seriously, because it leaves scar tissue every single time. Fortunately for me, the scar tissue hasn't been bad, but it could be if they keep doing it over and over again. So it's hard, and everything is so frustrating. And yeah, I go through those brief periods of why me? Seriously, like, why does this always seem to happen to me? But I keep telling everybody, oh, God has his reasons. And I'm like, look, if God's trying to teach me patience, I've learned patience. I'm done. Okay, I got it. I understand how to wait for things. It's been 8 freaking years. I think I'm patient enough. Come on, work with me here. And I feel like I don't need to wait any longer. Like, everybody's like, it's only 3 more months. You don't know that it's only 3 more months. Last year, that's what they said to me. Oh, it's only a 3-month treatment. It took a year to get the cancer to go away. Now, granted, this time we at least know I need a super high dose to start with. But the reality is, there's no guarantees. Nothing has a guarantee. Even the IVF itself doesn't have a guarantee. What's the harm of popping 2 eggs back in and seeing what happens? I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like, you've gotten this far. The transfer doesn't cost that much. If you want me to pay out of pocket, I will. For the transfer, because that's the easiest part of the whole process, is putting the eggs back in. It doesn't take you but 5 seconds to pop those eggs back in and see what happens. Oh, but you're wasting your eggs. What? You don't know that I'm wasting my eggs. You have no idea. And with that many eggs, what do you think I'm going to do? I'm going to keep them all? I mean, seriously, what, am I going to put them away for a rainy day? I mean, come on. There's 20 of them. You know, there's no way I'm going to use all these eggs. So it's just a whole process that we're going through and working through with our mind and our mindset. But my husband looked at me and he said, look, maybe there's a reason why we need to wait another couple of months. Who knows? And I think for daycare it would be good for me, but that's like the only positive is waiting on my daycare kids. You know, because then I can get another school year in before I have to worry about cutting kids. And I really don't want to have to lose any of my children. I love my families and, you know, I don't want to lose anybody, but at the same time I know that it's an inevitable thing if we have children. If we have more than one, if we have two, then I'm going to have to lose a family. And it breaks my heart to do that, but that's inevitable if we have twins. If we have a singleton, then we're fine. You know, it's not a big deal at that point, but I don't know, things happen for a reason, and I keep saying, but you know what? If I go in there and I say something to this doctor and it works, then it was meant to be this cycle. And I keep feeling like it is. So I'm going to keep you guys posted on what's going on, but hopefully we find out some good news tomorrow and everything, you know, goes a little bit smoother. I mean, it's been pretty smooth so far. I mean, I haven't had any reactions other than those ganirelix shots sting like bee stings when you put them in. The other shots are easy peasy mac and cheesy, but these were like, oh my gosh. I felt like I had a bee sting, and they itch. Oh my gosh, they itch. So it's like, you have to give yourself a shot, then it stings, and then you're itching like crazy. So it's like, you gotta be kidding me. Fortunately, I only have one more day of those, hopefully. And then I don't have to worry about that anymore, because I really don't want to deal with that. So that's my update for today, and it's looking like my retrieval is either going to be probably Tuesday or Wednesday. So my husband's all happy. He's all celebrating because he was worried it was going to be Monday, but no, it's pretty much looking like it's going to be Tuesday or Wednesday now. And I'm hoping they get a lot of eggies. A lot of good, healthy little eggs come out of there, and they're able to fertilize a bunch of them, because then maybe my plea to have them put 2 back in is not unfounded. So that's my update, and I hope everybody has a great day. Thanks.